I'm Justin Snyder.
And I'm Stephanie Greenwood Snyder.
We're just an average, everyday couple.
But over the years, we've seen the incredible importance of building community together.
We'll be talking with friends and experts about their stories and experiences to help us learn and grow.
We don't want to just survive through life.
We want to intentionally thrive.
This is The Intentional Thriver.
Welcome back to The Intentional Thriver, episode 2. Wowie. All right, so you made it through episode 1. You're still with us. That's great. This is probably going to be the hardest episode that we ever do.
Yep.
To be honest.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, episode 1, we talked about like the why we're doing this, the who it's for, what we hope people get out of it, what we ourselves are looking to get out of it. And now we're going to dive more into our stories and our past, because I think that's a big part of everyone's story, everyone's experience, is knowing like where you've come from,
right,
knowing why you think the way you think. And people may watch our story and they may be like, I can't identify with any aspect of that. And so this podcast really isn't for me, and I'm not interested in continuing, and that's fine. And that's great. Like I said, that's not a problem. But hopefully the purpose behind us sharing our story is not to be negative, not to like focus on, people who have hurt us or anything like that. It's really not. No. It's to focus on where we've come from and why we are the way we are and why the perspective we have.
Yeah. What's shaped our worldview, really. And everything's going to go through our lens, because that's the only lens we know. And we're not apologizing for that. We're not, trying to change it up so that we can get anybody to follow or listen to us. Right. We're just being honest and our perspectives. There's always more perspectives. There's always at least two sides to every story. And we're telling our side. And we've done the best we can to talk through these things with people that we feel like were appropriate. And I like you said, this is a big episode for us. And I think one of the reasons that's held us back from doing something like this for a long time. Would you agree?
Yeah. And what our heart behind it is that we do want to be very respectful of people's privacy. We want to be loving, we want to be kind, but we do want to be honest at the same time. And that's a hard balance. There's that word again, balance. That's a hard balance to strike and find. And so I guess we could start with talking about like who we are now. For people like who are these people? Like, I don't think we talked about that really at all in episode 1. Like, right. Who are these people that people are listening to? So
we just jumped right into it.
Like, in a nutshell, before we dive in deeper, how would you describe us?
Man, how would I love and hate that question. Somebody asked me to describe you the other day. Oh, no. And the crazy thing is, like, the 13 years we've been together, I can't really think of someone who has asked me that, because a lot of our life since we were 18 has been very blended, for lack of a better word. Most people knew you or knew me. I guess the time we did long distance for 2 years was the only time where that wasn't so much true. But a lot of our lives, I mean, I came on set with you and when you owned your business, and you came to work with me. Like, we just had a very, people knew us and knew Stephanie and Justin and knew that we did stuff together. So when somebody asked me to describe you, it kind of threw me off, but it was really kind of funny, because the way I would describe you is just the best of everything and just the only person in the world that can tick me off at the level that you can.
Thank you.
And I think the same would be true for me, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Like, I cannot love anything more, and I cannot be more mad at anything.
Well, I think that's part of intimacy. And that's part of vulnerability too. Absolutely. Is that like you are the person who knows my strengths and weaknesses better than anyone else in the world.
Scary.
And that can be scary. Yeah. There's pros and cons to that, when that person knows you that well, that intimately.
But who are we? Okay. So we are semi-young parents. We have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old.
In our early 30s.
In our early 30s. We have been married for almost 9 years, which is crazy. Like I said, almost together for 13. We did have a little pause in our relationship, but it wasn't a break. It was a donezo for a little bit.
There wasn't a question of, were we on a break? Weren't we on a break?
No, we were, maybe for a couple days, but
we definitely were broken up for about a year.
Yep. A year almost to the day.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But
what do you do? Like, what do you do now?
So I went to film school with you. That's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
And then after film school, I realized I loved more of the project management side of things.
And you're very good at it.
Oh, thank you. And then went from the project management in marketing to operations. And I love operations. I love helping people and processes helping people. And so I do love my job. I have very much had to work through the workaholics syndrome,
for sure.
which we'll talk about. But yeah, I love it. What about you? What do you do?
Well,
I feel like we're on a date.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Stephanie.
Well, I work in the film industry.
Mm-hmm.
We live in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Well, just outside of Atlanta.
Yeah, the capital industry of the world.
Sure.
No, it will be.
Yeah. No, we love it out here. I'm in the local 600. I work in camera department, so I get to work in movies and such, and I love it. It's what I've always wanted to do. What I feel like my mission, my purpose has always been is working in that industry and in some way, shape, or form. And it's looked different over the years.
Absolutely.
Like this is the first time that feel like progressing in that way.
Yeah.
And again, progress looks different to different people. But
yeah.
Storytelling, filmmaking. That's what I do. I love it.
Exactly. And do you feel like the industry is almost like our relationship? Like it's the thing that you love and the thing that you hate in the same breath?
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll have some friends on at some point to talk more about the industry. And I'm sure there are other industries like that as 100%. Well. But
every industry has an element of it.
Yeah, it's a challenging industry.
16-hour days, 5 days a week, in the cold, in the rain, in the trugging out.
Yeah, some shoots and shows are trickier than others.
Yeah, it's a little different than my desk job.
So that's what we do.
Yeah.
And we love it. We've got 2 kids, a girl and a boy, and
they're hilarious.
They are. They crack us up a lot, but they're fantastic.
They're just living life, like they're just all about it.
They're just little people, man.
Yeah, they are.
Well, I think we're just like procrastinating, actually diving in and telling our stories and buying our time is up. No, I think it's that time because again, like we talked about, our past is a big part of who we are.
It is.
And let me start off by saying this.
Okay.
Right off the bat.
Say it.
We greatly love and respect our parents.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Right off the bat. We
100%.
Want to say that because they are a big part of our story. And, obviously.
We heard
in
made
some
from them.
Beautiful ways and some hard ways.
Mm-hmm.
And we have talked to our parents before doing this, so that, they're not going to be blindsided by this. I actually called my dad today to, and I'd already talked to them before, but I called him specifically today just to be like, to talk through that with him. And he was very encouraging and very, about it, which was cool.
Huge
like our
change.
Our relationship has really changed over the years. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for that.
There's hope.
There is hope.
Yeah.
There is
past
hope.
3.
Yeah. No, it's great. Do you want to start?
Oh my word. Start with a question or start with an answer?
Whatever you're feeling. I'm thinking like, Stephanie, tell me about your, I don't want to be like a psychiatrist, like tell me about your childhood, but tell me about your past. Tell me about like some of the things that you feel like were defining moments of your story that have helped mold you into who you are as a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for asking.
Hey, you're welcome.
Okay. Let's go. Let's do this. Something I think I wanted to start out with, and it's kind of funny, but it's my first memory, which I don't know. I know some people have really big moments in their memory. My memory is kind of a silly story, to be honest with you. I remember very much being at church, being in the front row because I think I was the youngest. I don't really remember how old I was. And I remember turning around and there was a boy. I remember who the boy was, and he was eating a red lollipop. And I looked at him and said, where did I learn this? Red is for girls. And he looked at me and really kindly and said, no, boys can like red too. And just really, that stuck with me. And really, I have thought multiple times, is that really my first memory? Is that really? But that really stuck with me. It wasn't a big, like, traumatic or, event. It was just someone speaking kindly to me when they had a difference in opinion. And I feel like that's kind of a theme throughout my life, that people who have spoken to me in a way that was direct but kind has gotten through to me so much more than the people that have been in my life who have not been kind.
Oh, that's good. Good. That's a great observation.
So I want to start with that and just say thank you. I won't say his name. Maybe I'll send this to him. I don't know. But thank you for being kind. So going from there, I have 3 amazing sisters. I have 2 older and 1 younger. And they were the big girl, the big little girl. I was the little big girl, and then the little girl. So if that makes any sense to you, it does.
So you were 1 girl short of a Pride and Prejudice family.
Yes, that's right.
But you were essentially a Jane Austen novel.
Right. Yeah. So we were Little Women.
Little Women, that's right.
It was 4 girls, and we had the Greenwood Garrison. And yeah, we really tried hard at that. But of course our ages didn't line up with the characters, and man, we have so many stories together. We did some pretty fun things together. Since I was on the younger side of it, I got left out of some of the big girl stuff, but that's okay. I'm not bitter anymore about it. But I chased them around constantly, and then my little sister is just like, oh man, she's amazing. And we just are really close now. We text daily. We talk most days. I really couldn't be more thankful for my sisters and just how much they impact my life and confidants, and just really special to have that kind of connection.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
special.
that has not always been the case.
Okay.
I would say it was ups and downs in times, as siblings do.
Sure.
As you know. So we played together. We had fun together. My mom homeschooled us our entire lives, all 4 of us, from beginning to end. Wow, what a commitment, for sure. Yeah. She is a very, very accomplished early ed music teacher. And that woman loves kids. That woman just incredible energy when it comes, in everything, but especially when it comes to kid. And I would joke that she would bounce me on her lap even through like high school. She probably would today, to be honest with you. But now she has the babies to do it with. But yeah, so some memories in my life are early on having neighbors that were good friends. Our neighborhood wasn't the safest place in the world, and it was very different in the way of how we were being raised, and so it was hard to make relationships, for sure. And so that was something that I've struggled with, is how to relate to people, how to connect to people, especially when you felt very different. And so my parents decided to change churches when I was about 9. And that was a very hard transition for me. I didn't really understand what was happening. It was kind of, from my perspective, of course, was a very, very sudden move. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I have no choice here, but when I have a choice, I'm going back, yeah, in 9 years when I was 18, sure. So that, didn't happen. But I remember the first time I went to the new church, I said, I am not going to say hi to anybody. I'm just going to let them say hi to me first. And someone did. And I all of a sudden was like, blah, 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 blah. So I definitely struggled with being homeschooled because of how social I was. But my mom, in her wisdom and knowledge, knew that I needed a little more extra attention, because even though I wasn't diagnosed formally or anything as a child, I definitely had some learning disabilities with some sort of dyslexia or just a delay in reading. So my sisters, especially my 2 older ones, are just very, very quick learners. And so is my youngest sister. I mean, they all have their masters, and my mom. I'm the only one without a master's, so that says something. So I didn't learn how to read till I was 9, and I remember very clearly reading my first word. I was in the back of our car, and it was the station wagon where the seats like looked at each other in the back. Do you remember those? And I remember looking out the back window and like sounding out a word, and just like I think I cried. Like, it was such a big deal. Wow. And my mom took me to therapy. I wore a patch on my left eye for 2 years to try to offset my right dominance. I wore a patch at Disney. Like, it was a pretty intense thing that my mom really.
Have to go to Disney.
Oh, that's true. Cool. I know. Yeah. So we did get to go to Disney. Yeah. But yeah, so my mom really invested in me a lot, especially in those early years, to help me learn how to read. She started violin with me so that I could kind of work on my right and left hand, disconnecting them, I guess. I don't know. And that really helped me learn how to read. I think that was part of it. So I don't know all the science and everything behind it, but that was definitely a big trial in my life at an early age, because I knew I was so different in that area. I lied about needing glasses, and my mom took me all the way through the optometrist to the point where he was like sizing me for glasses, and then took a feather. He asked me one more time to read the words. And I had been lying the whole time that I couldn't read them, and like squinting, and like, because I just wanted to be fixed. And the guy took a feather, and the doctor took a feather and stuck it through the lens hole. And why did he have a feather? So maybe this had happened before. I don't know. But he goes, "You have perfect vision." Wow. You're lying. No, I mean, that sounds horrible, but I was crushed. I was heartbroken, because I thought that was going to be the answer to all my problems. So little 9-year-old Stephanie did not get glasses. It still does not have glasses. Although that might be changing, I can tell. But so that was a big struggle. And kind of through my whole life, dyslexia has played a big part, because it's made me have to work a little harder. But I made it through college, and I made it through high school, which was maybe even a bigger accomplishment. So yeah, when we changed churches, that was a huge adjustment. It took me a while to make real friends. And even after I made some good friends, I was in a very dark place as a young child. I think between just feeling very different and very just not normal, I just remember like my friends could all read and I couldn't. I was sounding out words while they were like, I remember my next door neighbors coming over. I just finished the dictionary. And they were younger. One of them was younger than me. And man, that was soul crushing. And then also I was very, very aware of my disobedience and my sin and whatever you want to call it. I was very aware of that as a child. And so I remember also when I was 9, 9 was a big year. Just really realizing like my like, I am not a good person. Like that is something that I don't regret, because I don't think that was something that wasn't what made me like doubt myself or anything like that. That actually gave me a lot of hope, because I knew that it wasn't on me to be good. It wasn't on me to be perfect. But it did definitely was very aware, apparent to me that I was not, whatever I felt like I should have been. So anyway, I made some friends in elementary school. I don't really know the grades because we didn't make a big deal about grades, I guess. But like 13, I made some really, really close friends, and we would call each other, do 3-way calls. Like, this is aging us, on our landlines, and pray together and read each other our journals. We were all avid journalers, and share it with each other, like what we how we were doing. And that was the first time I had external community besides my family, my immediate family.
Wow, yeah.
And that was a really special time for me because it helped me see the importance. It gave me so much energy. I think that was when I started coming out of a fog of a lot of shame from my dyslexia. They accepted me for who I was. For my delays, they were both really smart women. And they accepted me. And, when I misspelled something or misread something, because I hate reading out loud, they would laugh and make me feel normal. And that was a really special time. Then enters a season in my life where I just lost friends. I could just sit here for a good amount of time and tell you, well, this happened, and this group of friends didn't like me for some reason, and this group of friends called me these names, and this group of friends just stopped wanting to hang out with me. And it wasn't just like 1 or 2 people, it was like groups. And that was a really hard season, and it was over about 2 years that I really struggled with having true friends and having close friends. And I felt very isolated because being homeschooled, you only have certain groups. And my mom really did try to change up who we were around, but it just never felt like I clicked with people.
Sure,
and
yeah.
I was not very kind to my older sister. One in particular, I was very much a bully verbally to her because it made me feel big. And I think I was so jealous of how smart she was and how I perceived her as to be a good child, and I wasn't, from my perception, of course. And so I think that I really kind of lashed out to her verbally because I was not a very strong person. I still am not. And so she could sit on me all day, but I could whiplash her with my tongue. And I have apologized for that because I really caused some damage in that.
But you were very observational. You were really good.
That is when my skills of observation came through.
Which you still have.
I do. You're a very but for good now. That was not
with
for good.
With great power comes great responsibility, Stephanie.
I would use it to my advantage because I would see, oh, that girl just looked at that boy twice. She obviously likes him. And I would go in and say, oh, I think so-and-so kind of likes you. And I would work it that I saw stuff. Or if I noticed nail polish was chipped, then I would chip my nail polish so that I would be like the popular girls. Or I would try to wear certain clothing, which did get me in a good amount of trouble at home. And then I would try, I wore heels constantly, anything to make me stand out. That I could within the perimeters of my household. And at that time was pretty darn strict because my parents were in a group that was a very nationwide homeschool group, and we would go to football stadium conferences, and every woman would be wearing the exact same color clothes, and every man. And it was very very structured is one word for it. Very rules based, very expectations, high expectations. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of pain come out of that, and have some friends, not close friends anymore, but people that I have seen in my life still hurt by that group. And as there's a book out right now, The Untanglement of that culture to what the Bible says and what, is a free and true relationship with Jesus is very different. And that has taken years and years of untanglement and disassociation and removal to get through. And it has been quite a process for all my sisters and my parents. And I'm just so thankful to say that they're all like doing the work and figuring it out. And
That's awesome.
At a time, there was all my sisters and I were we really got close because we were all trying to figure out what is right for us and what we think is right for our families. And that actually brought us closer together because we all were just trying to disentangle this together. And so that was a really cool time that we got to see. And I am thankful for the outcome at the end. During it was a challenge, and I would say that led into some very, very opinionated opinions. That's not right, but very strong opinions for things that I would say I'm ashamed to have had. And again, the conversations that come to mind when I was thinking through this are some of the most kind people where I would come at them, I would say, and say, "Oh no, you can't listen to that music. Oh no, you can't wear a skirt like that. Oh no, you can't have a tattoo," or whatever I had decided they could not do. And I feel like the people that came alongside me and said kind words. I remember a guy I liked at the time, his older brother, came and painted our downstairs, and he just talked to me all afternoon. He was like 4 or 5 years older than me, and he just kindly talked to me about why I thought that and why. And he didn't change my mind that afternoon. But he taught me what it meant to come to someone kindly and speak to someone respectfully. I mean, I was younger than him. And to speak to someone, he didn't make me feel stupid. Again, didn't make me feel stupid. Didn't make me feel like my, parents were stupid or the whatever was stupid. He just was kind. And I had another situation where an older girl was just kind to me when I brought up something. And I think that really stood out to me, but it took years to get there.
Sure.
Because I definitely was not a kind person. As you know, I can be a not kind person. And that's hard for me. And I feel like, at the end of my life, I'm going to say, just be kind to people. And my biggest nightmare is that someone is going to be like, "Oh, what a joke. She wants you to be kind." Wow. Like that is a fear of mine. Like I really hope that, especially as I've gotten older, and I apologize to anybody out there that I was unkind to, because I know they are out there. Please forgive 16, 17, 18, 13, whatever year old Stephanie. And just know that that's something that has really changed in my life and is changing, right?
Yeah.
Constantly, is how to be kind, how to not say the first thing that comes into my head, how to not have the energy of I'm saying this, but I really mean this. And I am sure you guys will hear this on this episode where I say not kind things, and I am really working on that. And so, anyway, I'm jumping ahead, but I think I'm going to go back to you now. So that brings us up to pretty much college.
Wow.
So, and that's when we kind of met and our lives came together. So why don't we go to you and talk about your childhood?
Okay. Well, I'll try to condense and be as brief as possible. But so I'm the 7th of 8 kids.
What?
I think that pretty much tells you everything you need to know about me. No, I'm the 7th of 8 kids. I was born in Hawaii. My dad was in the Air Force, so we're a military family. They moved around a decent amount, but I came on the tail end of that. So they moved from Hawaii to Florida when I was just a few months old, weeks old, something like that.
How did your mom do
I don't know. She was a rock star. Yeah. But my parents were young in their faith journey. They were figuring it out. They were, the Christianese term for it is like first generation Christians. And so they were figuring out a lot. And they, when they moved to Florida, found a place that trying to think of like the kindest way to say it, that I think fit very much what my dad was used to with the military. Like there was definitely that military aspect. I mean, I'm just going to call it what it is. It was a cult, we grew up in a cult, or it had a lot of very cultic tendencies. Let me put it that way. Like, very heavy control. There was this very charismatic leader that kind of saw himself as like the general figure. And so like obviously with that military mindset, like you don't question that. Like what they say goes, because they know all the details and
what God spoke to them.
Well, to them directly, obviously. Yeah. But very strong isolation. You had to dress and look a very specific way. But one thing that was interesting about that was just, even as a young kid, I remember just being confused by like what was said and what was done was very different. And not just from like your peers and stuff like that, like from the people who were in authority, those authority figures, a lot of, and not all of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but a decent amount.
And the ones that weren't were okay with the ones that
were. I mean, again, I don't know how much they knew, but like there was some pretty not great stuff going on. I mean, they would go on these camps and I remember kids being beaten with broomsticks. I remember they would do these bonfires at night and they would take palm branches, which is so funny because palm branches are actually like an icon for peace. But they would take these palm branches and light them on fire and like hit kids with them.
Right. And shame the kids, right?
Yeah. And I remember staff member like punching a kid in the face on the bus. Or I remember there was a situation of like statutory rape in our youth group, and like horrible racial remarks made like behind closed doors said by like just horrible thing. Like looking back on it's like that's disgusting and revolting and not okay.
Right.
And
stuff has come out.
And exactly. Yeah. Like as I've gotten older, like more and more stuff has come to light of sexual assault and abuse and things like just so horrible.
Right. I feel like for the first like 5 years of our marriage, the repressed information would kind of come back and you'd be like, whoa, I just remembered something.
Yeah. Like but it's so interesting because as a kid, if like that's all right, it's like, oh, okay, whatever, it's no big deal. But something I really remember is like there was definitely this spirit of pride and anger from like a lot of the leadership. And like because of that, there was definitely like for me, and I, one of my biggest regrets is this point. Like because of that, it was definitely this mindset that you're either like the predator or the prey. You were either going to be the one who was bullied or the one who was the bully. And like I have very strong like regret over that. That is one of my biggest regrets, that I'm like I don't want to be bullied, so I'm going to be the bully. And so I did that, and I've had to go back and apologize to kids and multiple people who I've hurt and wronged in that way, and that's not okay. And that's gonna be a hard conversation for me to have with my own kids someday, of like how to work through that. But yeah, just very angry and controlling. And
the crazy thing to me is we had been dating for multiple years before you started sharing this stuff with me. And my father never raised his voice. I mean, unless we were in danger, like he did not raise his voice. And so to even like imagine being with a man who was angry was just like, no, thank you, you know?
Yeah.
And so when you told me that, I remember being a little scared and being like, wait, you? Like, I've been with you for how long? And I've never heard you get angry.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing to me.
Well, to me, that has been a incredible gift. And I think a swing from seeing that and seeing that in high school and being like, this is so wrong. And, the leadership in that organization was very good at telling people different stories, different narratives of the truth. And they were very good at secrecy and controlling and things like that.
Don't we know that?
Yeah, which is incredibly toxic and horrible. But you know what? In the midst of all that, I will say this, that I always have respected and loved my parents for the fact that like their faith and their relationship with God and their relationship with Jesus was very real to them.
Yeah.
I have a lot of love and respect for them. And I think one of the biggest takeaways of that I have really respect is that, I've got 7 siblings and each one of them like have their own faith journey, have their own, thing, but their faith is real to them. And I'm so proud of every single one of my siblings. And I love them dearly. We're not as close as no, like you and your sisters. We were all raised to be pretty independent, and we were all very different too.
Very different.
We're all very, very different. And for me, I was a weird kid. I really was. And another thing for my parents, like it's hard having that many kids. That's a lot. And my dad worked so hard, and he had multiple jobs. He actually worked for that organization, that church. And my youngest brother is actually special needs. He has Jacobson syndrome. And so
best boy in the world.
He's only a few years younger than me, but he's mentally probably about where our 1-year-old son is. And he was one of the greatest gifts that I could have ever had in my childhood growing up. It was a lot. it was hard at times, but he taught me so much patience. He taught me so much love. I know it was very hard on my parents at times, but they showed so much love to him.
Yeah.
I know it was really hard on my siblings at times, and each one of them have had to kind of work through that in their own way.
Yeah.
But selfishly, there were a couple of reasons that I really loved my brother. Joshua was his name. And one is that we weren't really allowed to watch a lot of TV growing up.
Right, same.
But when Joshua came along, like he was able to watch more TV. And so I kind of was able to piggyback off that and watch more like Disney movies and, stuff like that with him. And I just remember him watching movies, and he had a lot of difficulty communicating and things like that, and it was hard to understand him. But I remember the impact of him like watching movies and how like locked in he was, and I knew like it was speaking to him. Like I knew he was taking it in and understanding it and saturating it. And I think that was a huge part for me that got me interested in movies and filmmaking and seeing the power that medium has in communication. And from then on, that became a huge love for me. And I think a huge outlet for me in the midst of all that stuff growing up. Like I would get my friends together and we would make movies, and that was my coping. That was my outlet,
Make movies. I mean, you did the scripts, patched together.
If you could call them scripts.
They were so amazing. You would patch together soundtracks. You would draw out costumes, and your mom would make them
my mom
for
was
you.
incredible. She would make them, and I was very close to my mom. you know, my dad was he was very busy. He had he was taking care of 8 kids and special needs kid and working for an organization that the church that was they took advantage of boundaries, and they did not differentiate between like taking care of your family because you're just serving God, you know? And so coming out of that, coming into college, we both went to a university that we met at.
Yeah.
I would say that is the most
we met and
wonderful thing.
Moved on. I'm just kidding.
I mean, it was there were some really wonderful people there, and we made some great friends. I would say we made some great friends that some of them will be on the podcast.
Yes. And we will probably say, "Oh, remember college?"
And they'll say, "Nope, I repressed all of that,"
and move on. No. But the thing about college for us, that the people, if they're listening to this and went there, you have to understand from our perspectives, it was a freedom.
Yeah,
element.
exactly.
Exactly. We came from such a tight ship home that. What? We can stay up till 10 o'clock?
I know, right?
Like, oh, you want me in bed at 10? Okay. But we can stay up till 10.
Yeah.
Oh, we can only be here and date. Okay, but we can date. Like,
we can date.
You know? So, like, I don't think people understand the difference. Like, if I came from a public school, I cannot even imagine. I can't even imagine now, like, even fathoming going back there. But like at the time for us, it was just enough freedom. I think if we had gone to a public school or a more traditional college, it might have been too much, like too much too fast.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. For us, it was the right call. Yeah, so college was definitely an experience for us.
Yeah, and it was let's see, so we started our class with 22 people, and 3 of us ended up graduating. Right. Like it was a pretty intensive course.
You, me, and one of our groomsmen.
Yeah.
So who were still.
Spoiler alert: we got married.
Yeah, we did. Very surprisingly, because we met first day, first class, and then started dating end of freshman year, broke up beginning of sophomore year. Had a very tearful year for me. We both tried dating other people. Yeah.
And we'll dive into that maybe another episode.
It was wild.
There's only so much time to go through.
But we did get back together, which was crazy because people kept asking me, "How'd you get him back?" And I was like, I was the worst ex-girlfriend, right? I was the worst.
How do you want me to answer that?
Yeah. And so, then I had already decided to graduate a semester early because I didn't want to be in classes with him. And so I was like, okay, we're back together. But I'm piecing out in December. So I was asked to travel on a Celtic music evangelistic team. So I went and traveled for a year and a half. You graduated.
I graduated, and like I this is gonna sound kind of silly, but I because my dad and I never really had a great, like, strong relationship growing up. That's something I wanted to have, was that. And so there was I got offered a position actually working in the same organization as him. And I'm like, okay, I've gone to, this very strict environment, and a lot of not good, but there's some good, and there's some tools and some things that we learned.
I can make it good. I can
and
help.
So exactly. So that was the thing. It's like, oh, I can take these things and I can help change, because there had been some external changes on their end. It's like, oh, okay, there's progress, there's moving forward. And it's an opportunity for me to, be in closer proximity to my younger brother as well as my dad, to kind of build that relationship. And just being in that organization and seeing some behind the scenes and sitting in on staff meetings and things like that, very quickly saw that was not the case. And there was a lot of that same toxicity that had not been addressed. And so I mean, and we tried to stick it out. We got married.
Well,
and then,
I think you really didn't know how to voice it. I think it was a deep discomfort, but I don't think you, without feeling ungrateful, because I remember the conversation, you calling me and saying, I need to go back to my church and I need to help and I need to, be there with my family. And I just feel like I need to do this. But you just felt like you were going to help. And I think that was.
Yeah, that was the heart behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But something I've learned as I have gotten older is that if like at the core, if at the top level and the leadership doesn't see the need to change, and it's not even that it's like, we don't like your idea, whatever. It's not that.
No.
It's like, not only is it not wanting to move in a certain direction, it's being opposed to any change or move in that direction. Because there's a difference. There can be an apathy toward a direction, and there can be a spirit of opposition to a direction.
Yeah.
And it was definitely that. And it's like, can't really do anything with that. And we were married at the time, and so we would talk about that.
Oh, I was struggling.
That was a hard season. And so I remember I wrote out a bunch of concerns, and I sat down, and concerns that like I took from just straight out of the
conversation.
Bible.
Well,
yeah, I took
notes
of conversations that just like some comments that were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I remember sitting down with my dad, and I went through all that with him because I had a lot of respect and love for him, and respected his his viewpoint and everything. And we went through it and we talked through it, and he said, well, I can't really disagree with anything that you said. And I said, okay. And so I ended up saying to the leader of that group, like, hey, I'm going to look for another job.
Yeah.
Look for another position. And before that time was up, in one of the staff meetings, he decided to very publicly fire me in front of the staff, and then kind of go around the table and each of them tell me why I was wrong. And my dad was in there, and
your brother-in-law.
Yeah. And
men that had been in your life your whole life, and
sure. But really I had seen enough of like the behind the scenes to be like, I don't, not holding as much weight of what they're saying, but my dad being there and being involved in that after I had talked to him, that was hard. Mm-hmm. That was hard. And that very nearly broke my relationship with him. That was tough. That was a tough season. And that's when we really, as a couple, came together and asked questions.
Everything. Yeah.
And we're like, man, if this is the application of people who claim to have a faith, and this is how it comes out in all these ways, like me completely out of the equation, it was all those other factors and all those other really toxic traits that we were seeing. And again, and I talked about this in episode 1, but the constant excuse of like, oh, well, no place is perfect. No place is perfect. It's like, yeah, no place is perfect.
Right.
But there's a difference between perfect and healthy.
Yeah.
And it was not healthy.
No.
It was not healthy.
And I kept thinking, like, and saying to you at least, like, we're 23 years old. We're babies. We've been married for 9 months. Like, if you're wrong, if you're, doing something wrong, if I'm doing something wrong, then disciple us, then mentor us, then tell us. And not one person asked us if we were okay. Not one person came up to us or called us or texted us. Family, friends, nobody. If we could pay our bills after, the time was up, or if you had a job, or nothing. And that was a big moment in my life where I was like, this is not community. This is not relationships. And these are people that I really tried, I think, to have friendships with.
Yeah.
And it was so... and I don't know where they are now, but I think that they I don't think that's who they want it to be, but that's what the church was. So anyway, yeah,
I think that there wasn't their definition of community.
Yeah,
I think was very different from what we have learned and applied it to be in our lives.
That's right.
Now, and finding a thriving community and
that's right.
finding safe people, because they just, like, for me in my life, we're just not safe people. And that really did drive us to take a look at our faith through a very critical lens.
Yep.
And work through that hurt and be like, is this something that we want to continue in?
Yeah.
And
can we just sit on our couch? Can we watch something?
Yeah.
Can we just not at all? Can we really did question everything.
We did. And I think that was really good.
Yeah.
That was really good, because we came out, like, did our faith look differently coming out of that? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it came out stronger and from my opinion better? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so, in my opinion. And so we did some research and looked at different other churches, and we found one that was different from what we than what we were used to and what we had been told and conditioned both in growing up and in college to be like, well, this is, if they have. And again, this is going to sound ridiculous to people who are not familiar with some of that.
But it's true.
If you have drums in your music,
then
that's a big no-no.
Satan conjuring.
If any of the men have hair longer than
their
ears, like a military haircut, obviously that's like not a
they
true, genuine
want to be a woman
faith. Like just really looking back, ridiculous things.
Yeah.
Honestly, looking back.
Yeah.
And so it was really great.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna have some people on in the next episode who were part of like that community and part of people who that we built true community with, that we're incredibly thankful for.
Yeah.
But that was really kind of the next step in that was
huge.
Building a strong community of people that we could feel safe with, that we could grow with, that we could authentically just do life with on a daily basis. And I will say this, like, as my parents have gotten out of that environment and are like detoxing from years of just a lot of like disentangling what is good and true with a lot of the toxicity and lies that have been very closely interwoven into that.
Right.
I'm very thankful for my parents. I'm very thankful for my dad. I mean, that we have a stronger relationship now than I think we've ever had. And he and I have talked about that, and he's apologized multiple times for that. And I've seen firsthand the healing. I've seen firsthand the grace and the love and the kindness that come from true, authentic faith that is lived out.
Mm-hmm. So if I could go back and talk to a younger Stephanie, oh man, I just got emotional there.
Yeah.
I think I would tell her that, first of all, it does get better. You're not weird. You're not different. Your challenges right now are going to become your superpower. Just wait for it, But I think I would go back and say, like, I think I would say that kindness is so much more important than being right. That a soft answer and a no answer at all is sometimes better, is often better than an answer. And I think I would also remind her that like, it's okay, like, it's all okay, like, just keep, like I tell Alexandria all the time, take a deep breath, Yeah, I think I would just go back and give my childhood self a yoga lesson. Like, let's just take deep breaths. Let's take a beat. Let's talk a little slower. Like, let's be a little kinder to yourself, to others.
Yeah, for me, that is a tough question.
Yeah.
That is a tough question. Honestly, though, the biggest thing I would probably say is like, you don't have to be a bully to not be bullied. You know, I think that by just loving on kids who are maybe different, who don't think the same way you do, that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. That's what makes us human beings, is the fact that we're all different and unique, and this drive toward everyone has to look exactly the same and be cookie cutter, because that is what true religion or whatever looks like. Is I disagree with that very strongly. But just show love. I mean, that's really what it boils down to for me at the end of the day is, and I think what we're called to do. I think that's what true, genuine faith boils down to when you really look at it. Yeah. Is, in my opinion, it's loving God and loving people. Hopefully this gives you a little bit more understanding of like who we are and where we've come from, and again, why we think the way we think, and also more understanding of why we're doing this. Yeah. Why we're doing this podcast, because we know the importance. We've experienced firsthand the importance of true community and sharing your story within that, and how that grows you and how that helps you, and how like coming alongside other people and other people coming alongside you helps you thrive in your life. I think that's a huge component of thriving. And so we're very thankful for our friends, and you know, through these interviews, we're talking to people, we're asking them about how they feel like they're thriving in their lives, things that we respect and admire about them. And so like we hope that if this is going to be encouraging for you, that you'll come with us on that journey that, again, is very selfishly for us in that way. So let's try to intentionally thrive together. Yeah. So thanks again for coming along, and we'll see you next time.
Weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, let's try it again.
Okay. And we'll see you next time. Okay.
Worse.
Bye.
Bye.